Hi, my name is CJF Brand, otherwise known as Coenraad. This is a long and difficult one. I'm warning you, you might want to skip this one if you're not into difficult stuff. You are listening to Time Communication Questions and Answers, where I question possibilities of communicating back into time. These questions are excerpts from my work, Group Representation for Inventors and Innovators with the advent of time communication. Right. As it appears with time communication, women has this unique natural capacity to create certain points in time in the past, but limited out of sight and out of mind, right there inside the confines of their minds. Okay, now, for those of you who do not know, with time communication, these points back in time are referred to as toints. You give a toint a name and respectively then with time it you can avoid your possible potential error with possible decisions you are contemplating making in your life by then sending your regrets and remorse about any certain decision having been made back into time. Toints are communication center points existing retrospectively back in time, and they exist there where a person may have made a particular choice of mind to avoid error, or where a person may have obeyed the choice of somebody else, even with such choice necessarily constituting error and blunder. A toint is not merely just a point back in time when knowledge of future events which could come to exist can be sent to, but also when knowledge of a particular future event have come to exist in the present, and as the future event's retrospective information had been sent to the toint, whilst this particular future event was still bound to inevitably come to exist by one's having had the will to commit to a certain decision causing the event to exist. Though the event can become a non-event by actually deciding against it, the retrospective information of the event is still stored in the present and available. Let us assume a man and his woman are both falling short of the wisdom required to avoid an inevitable error. Yet, that future event for which a mutual toint existing back in time for sending retrospective information to had not in fact come to exist altogether. It turned into a non-event. The woman would get all emotional about it being the wrong choice. And emotionally guide a man to sense the reasons rationally, however emotional the occurrence might have been. The inevitable error thus becomes a possible error. And should the man listen to his mate, his error could be avoided altogether, and the error thus becomes a non-event. Yet, that toint, back in time, where the retrospection of that erring reality consequently not ever coming to exist, was sent to still exist along with that once consequential and associated non-event, as well as all of the retrospection that was offered. And yet, still, accessing toints like those from non-events in the real and actual future, which do then actually come to exist in the present, potentially reveals for men and women a wide source of knowledge on a wide array of possible error, if all the data are saved. This is a wonder for time communication and its toints. This is a true capability of the female mind, And she inevitably carries with her a much more developed sense of her own personal future, a man and offspring's characters, and the safety and nature of both her mate and her offspring. This cannot be debated unless differently explained. Is there a limitless capacity for time communication on offer to mimic the female mind? My answer. Let us assume the time between a decision being made and more specifically the actual creation of a toint and the decision not to move to action, perhaps due to intuitively having made adequate realization of an error, were limited to just a mere 3 seconds. The retrospection on offer from the potential future event, thus negated into non-existence as a non-event, can only be received for the actual duration of 3 seconds in which it existed, or its feedback possibility was possible. This feedback of the retrospection can be sent to the present moment in which a toint was made to receive it. On the actual device, cell phone, whatever, or at a database facility comprising technologies far wider in bandwidth and saving speed. There might be more information that could be received in the span of mere 3 seconds. However, infinite amounts of data ought to be saved in order to avail a single person of retrospection on any given topic, as for this person it may randomly arise as to what a person considers to be necessary information somewhere in their lives. This is not problematic, as there would only be a need for a mere split second, let alone 3 seconds, or to be technically sophisticated enough, almost no time at all. This is because the present toint can facilitate saving the retrospection in the direct past, which can't become a non-event and has its doors open for retrospection of non-events for practically infinite amounts of time. Such non-event errors may or may not display to have at least only some similarities to the actual real-life present and upcoming errors or events to a person. In addition, any actual event then, if not personally studied at length, can only get linked to a possible existent non-event by means of software's wordplay for potential association, whilst linguistic name changes or pragmatisms occur. So, in conclusion, we can take our scalpels and we can dissect the female mind. Then with software and hardware, we can copy the female mind. Yet, with words describing actions and non-event consequences, they are still simply void of any associating female emotions. The ethics of women's emotions are still what provides structurally linking men with the estimation and appropriation of what exactly constitutes their potential heir. We won't want software computers as rational monsters when we want sympathy from a woman. How can a computer feel? Adding to the above, another question. without communication devices actually possessing the ability of narrowing down the experiences of error from these could have been non-event realities to strongly felt pure emotions, and portraying these strongly felt pure emotions effectively and exactly at the times when, as well as how required, will there remain but only the categorization of topics in corporate, religious or governmental think tanks as but the only hope of reviving provable help and assistance for inevitable error in good time? My answer: a very old LP radio plays by having its needle in the LP groove, bouncing this way for the one speaker and that way for the other speaker, and gradually it makes its way to the end of the track. A publicly mandated think tank indicating non-event retrospection is but a scratch in the LP and serves to make the needle jump either left or right, understood as forward or backward on the track, and for mankind as forward or backward in time regarding a certain issue. It depends on what the software programming is intended to achieve. It really is. Because if the software is not intended to make the needle jump any which way and to only appropriately, openly educate the masses, constant efforts will be required from government regulators to keep undermining unintended software malfunctions by means of sheer criminal prosecution. It will be a relentless job. Thank you for the love and care.